One day, I walked in the front door of my dream home in Denver and heard a calm, confident inner voice say to me, "All the reasons you needed and wanted this house are complete. Go." I was a single 57-year-old entrepreneur. I loved my life just the way it was and had no plans to change anything. Nevertheless, the message was unequivocal. It was simply time to go. Unfortunately, the voice did not say go where. My house sold in 60 days. I gave away nearly all my belongings. And then I embarked on a make-it-up-as-you-go global adventure for 3 years. I'm so blessed to have had this opportunity. So to pay it forward, I'd like to share with you the lessons I learned along the way. Right before my house closing, I went into each room, thanked it, and I sobbed so hard I thought I'd lose a lung. Then a peace came over me. I accepted that this part of my life was complete. Something new was on the way. I've come to understand that life is a continuous coming together and a falling apart. When we stop railing at this inevitable cycle, we find peace with what is. Sometimes at 6 in the evening, I still didn't know yet where I would stay that night. But something always turned up, often from where I least expected it, and way better than I'd hoped for. A woman in Kauai asked me to house sit for 3 months. An Australian, a friend of a friend, left the house key under the mat. I was offered meals, cars, and adventures so often, it became normal. I learned to trust that whatever I need, whenever I need it, for as long as I need it, will always be at hand. And I now recognize that what we actually need might look quite different from what we originally had in mind. One of the most impossible questions to answer is, what's going to happen next? People often remarked, "You are so brave. I could never live without a house and travel with just one suitcase and a computer." Bravery had nothing to do with it. I learned that if we can thrive in the tension of not knowing, it makes for a very juicy way of life. I received invitations to stay in basements, spare bedrooms, mansions, vacation homes, and someone's cousin's mountain cabin. In turn, I babysat their kids, made them soup, and taught them to salsa. At each home, I tried to craft something beautiful before I left, brightening up a nursery with a hand-painted mirror, from this to this, giving new life to an old lamp, and sometimes transforming entire rooms, such as this dining room, from this to this. Before my journey began, I was a good giver, but not a very good receiver. What I've learned is that people want to help. Let them. It's good for everyone. I often experience things I didn't even know existed. One night, I was invited to be a grape sorter at my friend's vineyard in Oregon, beginning the next day at 5 a.m. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, ending in a feast of food and wine on the hillside. Another time, I was invited to stay in a one-room hotel that was actually a working crane on the Bering Sea. I biked to the tulip fields in the Netherlands and took the wrong turn on a hike through the Australian Blue Mountains, ending up in the spectacular Valley of Water. In my previous life, I often overprepared, overscheduled, and felt overwhelmed. I've learned how important it is to leave some space in our lives for magical moments, so they can land right in our laps. Everywhere I went, people danced. The Germans at Oktoberfest, the Bhutanese in Celebration, the Hawaiians in Sacred Ceremony. So I danced too, participating in a flash mob, taking ballroom dance lessons, and cha-cha-chawing in competition. And everywhere I went, I saw daily practices of silence, in meditation, prayer, and nature. I learned there's no substitute for stilling the mind and moving the body, today and every day. I was often asked, "But don't you get lonely?" "No, I really don't," I'd reply. I now know to my core that we are never alone. Ever. Because deeply we are one. And the best lesson I learned is this. It turns out that love, in all its forms, really is the answer, and we are worthy of it just the way we are, just because we are. And though we often try to convince ourselves otherwise, it's never too late to take another chance on love. I have a new appreciation that every day begins with an invitation. We awaken to a life force beckoning us to take our next step forward. So what's beckoning you? I hope you'll accept the invitation.